This piece is for all you cowboys out there. It's called Dusty Ryder. What I'm going to tell you now might make you think I'm loco. I hope that you'll believe me, but I don't care if you do. You asked me what in all my life's the strangest thing I have seen. Well, crazy as this story sounds, I swear to you it's true. I was on a cattle drive the second time around, slightly north of Austin on a late September night. A night where any cowboy that was riding near the herd would have been a cinch to hear and hard to hide from sight. The sky was clear and cobalt blue, with countless twinkling stars, and gliding over the prairie like an old pastel doubloon, a softly glowing ivory sphere cut silhouettes of all that stood or milled or rode beneath that floating autumn moon. Nothing short of nothing could have moved across that stretch without them being easily seen. The sky would light them up. But, son, I'm here to tell you, this is actually what I saw the night that Dusty Ryder's ghost brung in a stranded pup. Out a ways, I suppose about 200 yards or so, a bawling little calf was lost. He'd left his mother's side, and I could easily tell he'd gone and got himself in trouble, and knew I'd probably need to saddle up and take a ride. It was after midnight when that whining little brat first commenced calling out. He missed his mama's bag. That's when old Mariah whopped her head against my chest to tell me she'd prefer it if I picked some other nag. This ain't gonna take too long, I promised my old friend, and we don't want him whining up some old coyote's meal. He just wants his mama, and it's you and me's on duty. And if some varmint brings him down, just think of how we'd feel. But as I tossed the blanket on to saddle up my partner, glancing across the prairie just beyond the milling herd, I could not believe my eyes, and neither could Mariah. Both of us just stood there, staring. Neither said a word. Off there in the distance run the calf that had been bawling. He zigged and zagged repeatedly, like he was being chased. Before we knew it, there he was, standing by his mother. There amongst 1,000 cows, the calf had been replaced. All the cattle, undisturbed, seemed unaware and careless. Would me and old Mariah be the only two that knew? I removed the blanket from her back, then stroked her brow and said, "You know, I can't believe what I just saw. Can you?" Old Mariah shook her head to tell me she agreed. It seemed as though a ghost had drove that little feller in. The way he darted, left and right, he seemed to be responding to someone actually dogging him to bring him home again. And yet, we never heard a sound except that bawling baby, and never saw no cowboy on a horse behind that calf. Tell you what I'd probably do if someone told me this. I'd tell them they'd been drinking far too long, and then I'd laugh. By the time that dawn had come, me and old Mariah hadn't slept a wink all night. I think it's plain for why. I milled around the camp a while, afraid to tell my story, till some old guy who'd rode that drive for far more years than I looked me up and down a bit and said, "You're looking tired. In fact," he added, friendly-like, "you look a mite confused." I just sort of looked at him, then figured, might as well. But I was extra careful with the kinds of words I used. "Didn't really sleep too good last night," I started out. "Heard a little doggy out there stranded on the prairie. But when I went to saddle up, because the moon was bright, I spotted something out there sort of weird and kind of scary. Out from in the distance comes this whining little pup, a zigging and a zagging like a doggy being drove. Well, I've got eyes and I've got ears, and swear there had to be some cowboy's ghost a-dogging him, the way he dodged and wove." "Of course there was," the old guy said. A grin come on his face. "And you ain't seen a thing at all that ain't been seen before. That there calf was brung back to his mama by the best, and the Lord ain't making men like Dusty Ryder any more." Dusty drifted in one day and signed on as a drover. A big old bolt of lightning spooked the herd in '83, and 1,000 head run straight across where Dusty'd been a-branding. They run right through the fire and all, and caught him on his knee. Dusty's horse, a sorrel mare, was killed that day as well. The trail boss laid him down together, south of Abilene. Everyone who knew him understood he had a weakness for stranded calves, and that explains what some of us have seen. I was on a graveyard shift, just the same as you, when in from off the prairie, where he never should have been, jigged and jagged this weak old calf when, right before my eyes, something that I couldn't see or hear done fetched him in. It's true, my friend. Without a sound, with nothing there to see, he run him to his mama in the middle of that herd. Rowdy swears he's seen him do the same in '94, and after what I seen myself, I'll take him at his word. Hard to blame the ones we tell about what Dusty's done for thinking we've been drinking, and it's true, they often laugh. But I can tell you this, young man, for 47 years, on 47 cattle drives, we've never lost a calf.